Welcome back to Candid Chats on Cancer. I'm Jamie Moore.
And I'm Mary Robinson.
And we're going to talk about and continue going on about diagnosis and about the second diagnosis that we can possibly have. So, Mary, you've got several diagnoses. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, I had the diagnosis that I had acute myeloid leukemia. And then I had, went through all the chemo treatments and everything for that. And then I had the diagnosis that I was healthy again. Is that how you nurses say it? I wasn't sure about the lingo on that.
I'm not quite sure on the lingo right now either.
Okay. But yeah, so I was in remission. And so that was a good thing. And then I had I always went for the checkups. And when I was up to every 6 months, one of those checkups, 2.5 years after my initial diagnosis, my leukemia had returned. And so there was the third diagnosis. And so that was a pretty hard time for me because I felt fine. I had a slight cold. I had great color. I didn't look sick. And I said to my doctor, are you sure? I just couldn't put my head around why I would be sick. And I went through an emotional roller coaster that time because I knew I needed a stem cell transplant for survival, long-term survival. And so that's kind of how that part started. Now, what about your diagnosis?
I just had a CAT scan done. And so,
those CAT scans.
Yes.
Does anybody know about CAT scans? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
For me, the CAT scans are relatively easy. I have a port that's up in my left hand side of my chest, and so, to put an IV in me is fairly easy. You can have a CAT scan done with two different types, with dye or without dye. I've always had with dye or with contrast is what they call it.
And I've had both ways. I've had it with contrast, and then I've had it without. Now, I had a prep before the contrast one, and they had me drink a whole bottle of water before they would give me the dye. At the time, you mentioned a port, and
Right.
I had a PICC line. And if any of you know about PICC lines, they're inserted on your arm. And, well, most of them are. There's other areas they can do it as well. But with leukemia, usually they have a PICC line because we can take it out after we're done with all of our treatments. But I do remember the dye, or the contrast.
Yes.
Like you said, it's non-invasive. It's a really easy procedure, but I felt like I wet my pants.
They tell you that right off the bat. It's kind of like right before they get ready to give it to you. It's like, oh, by the way, you're going to feel this real warm sensation down in your groin.
All the way through your body.
And it's going to feel like you just wet your pants. And I'm kind of like, nah.
Whatever.
And the first time I had it, I didn't have any of that. I'm like, where did you guys get that from?
Oh.
And you go, well, did you taste it? And like, yeah, it left kind of like a metallic taste in my mouth.
I don't recall that.
Yeah. But I didn't have any of that. Now, the second time, like this Wednesday, when I had my CAT scan, I felt it go from here all the way down. And it's not a bad feeling. It's just kind of like a warm feeling.
And if I remember correctly, you can have CAT scans on different parts of your body. Now, mine was from the neck down to my torso. I don't know what kind of CAT scan they give you.
Mine was the same from the neck down. Actually, chest to my lower groin. Because they want to look specifically, they're looking at my kidneys and liver and my bowels.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're really more looking for the stomach area than anything. It takes all of about, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
If it takes that. They get a nurse that comes in and, she'll open up my port and scrub it and puts an IV in it. And then they go, okay, hold your breath. And I hold my breath, and then they go, okay, you're done.
Yeah, and you hear this noise too. I think it tells you, the machine itself says, hold your breath for 3 seconds, and then it tells you to breathe. Now, I have heard of people not liking the claustrophobic effect.
Yeah.
I didn't have that problem. Did you?
I didn't either, but I think the claustrophobic effect would be more if you're looking from looking at the head, so that the head is in this, because a CAT scan is just a giant, it's just a big old donut is what it looks like. And I think when we only go in up to here, it's not as bad, but if you're having a head done, then your whole head is inside there, and it can be very claustrophobic. In fact, as a nurse in intensive care, sometimes we would have to give people sedation so they would feel comfortable inside the CAT scan machine.
Yeah.
I didn't have any problems with it, and I think that almost everybody who has a cat doesn't have a problem with it either. That little warm sensation that goes over you is what? Lasts for
Oh, it doesn't last
30
long at all.
seconds, 15 seconds if it's that.
Now,
The
did
hardest part,
oh.
I think the hardest part though with a CAT scan is waiting for the results.
That's what I was going to ask you. Did you get your results yet? I don't know how soon you got your results in the past. It seemed like
Yeah.
mine came a couple days later.
Yeah. I used to get my CAT scans done on Monday because that's my day off from my clinic. And then I would see my oncologist on Friday.
Oh, that's a lot of days to wait.
So my wife, just said, I can't do this because every day, well, as you know, leading up to, I think the days going up to that, the CAT scan caused me more anxiety than having the CAT scan done. And then the days afterwards, you're waiting for that results to come back. And finally, my wife, like everybody, we should be patient advocates, she spoke up and said, no, let's do his CAT scan on Wednesday so that all I really have to do is wait for Thursday, and then Friday morning, we see the doctor the first thing on Friday morning. And so for her, it became more comfortable when we moved it up in time, but I was fine with it being on Mondays because it's my day off. But I didn't realize it was more fun having it on my day I'm supposed to be in the clinic because I got to take the day off.
You had a really good excuse to take it off. Yeah.
And so it ended up working out well for me that way. And it's less anxiety to go from Wednesday morning to Friday morning than it is to go from Monday to Friday.
Well, I've had, I remember when I was after the stem cell transplant, I ended up getting my results the same day as well, but it was in a different facility, so I didn't know if that was an option for you. It would be nice if you could do it on Friday and get the results Friday.
Yeah, unfortunately, my oncologist, I go to his office, and so they have to, the CAT scan has to be read by a radiologist, and he writes a report, and then he'll send a copy of that off to the oncologist. Then the oncologist will read the CAT scan over again and get his opinion. So there has to be a certain amount of time, just because you've got to have all these experts looking at it. And like in my last case, my doctor wanted to compare this CAT scan with several other CAT scans. And so it just takes time.
Yeah.
It would be sweet. I mean, they do give me a disc on the way out the door if I ask for one. And like I said in the last episode, I can very amateurishly look at one just because I've been in the control room 100 times or more, or 1,000. But this time around, when they automatically expected me to ask for the disc and they gave it to me.
Now, can I ask you, do they do that because of your nursing background, or can anybody that gets a CAT scan ask for a disc?
Anybody can ask for a disc.
But then people that haven't seen them probably can't interpret it as...
You can't interpret them. I mean, you'll look at them, and it's kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of fun to see them, the inside of what you look like. But you wouldn't be able to tell if it was abnormal or normal. And even somebody like me, who has 25 years in intensive care, and I can't remember numerous patients. I'm talking hundreds of patients I've been down there, and I still can't read one very well. It takes a very trained physician, a radiologist, and a really good oncologist to look at them. So even though they gave me the disc, I didn't look at it this time because I'm not that good to notice if anything was wrong.
Yeah.
But anybody can have one. Just
well,
ask them.
We all want to know, how did you find out your results yet?
Yes, We found out my results on Friday, and we found out that there's another diagnosis that we haven't thought about. I am now considered to be on a chemo vacation. That's my new diagnosis, chemo vacation.
Can you
But
explain
what that
that
really
to us?
means is that on my CAT scan, it showed that I have 3 little spots on my liver. And so my cancer is back, but it's very tiny, and it's tiny, 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 and so small that even my oncologist, he went, you know, if you really wanna, and you really feel panicky about this, you know, we can start you on chemo again right now. Or how about let's just wait another 3 months and see if your immune system catches up with it and your immune system kills it off naturally. So it wasn't the diagnosis that I wanted to hear. It would have been beautiful to hear that this would have been my 4th CAT scan, that I would have been clean. In fact, I'm coming up on a year of being considered cancer-free. So now I can't say I'm cancer-free, but I want a cancer vacation. And I plan on staying on that vacation for a really, 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 really long time.
Yeah.
So there are different diagnoses, and there seems to be different shades of diagnosis too.
There is. Yeah, because like with me, when I found out it was back, I didn't have the option of waiting 3 more months. And we needed to move fast because they said that since it came back, it can be more aggressive. And so we needed to look for a donor because I had the type of leukemia that I couldn't use my own stem cells. And so, you know, that was scary because I have one sibling. You have a 25% chance of having a match with your sibling. And my sibling was 27% match, and that wasn't good enough. So then we ended up having my oldest son get tested. And they actually tested him multiple times. I felt bad for him because they took about 10 vials of blood each time they checked him for the match, because we knew he was 50%. And sometimes people can use their children. They don't recommend using children if they're under 18, and at the time my son was 16, but my son went to a counselor at the hospital and said that he will do whatever he can to save his mom, which made me proud.
Oh, you should be proud. You got such a lovely son anyway.
Yeah, so long story short, one of the testings that they did, I had antibodies inside my body that would have rejected his stem cells, and they said that I needed to go elsewhere. And so, you know, they got me into remission again. Then I had to stay in remission while they looked for a donor. And we found one. And I thank God every day for him. It's a 48-year-old male from Germany, and I can't wait to meet him. They say a year after.
How did you find a German that was
Suitable?
No, that's not that. Probably not. That was suitable for,
A 10 out of 10 match.
To be able to donate his stem cells to you.
Yeah, well.
Is there like a registry, or like can we get
yes,
into that?
It's bethematch.org, and what people do is all they have to do is ask for a kit. They contact bethematch.org. They send a kit in the mail. It's all free. You literally swab the side of your cheek with a Q-tip, I believe it is. I didn't do it, and then you send it back to them, and you're in the registry. Some people are in the registry for years upon years. They like to have ages 18 through 40. My donor was 48, so that's telling me that he was in the registry for years. But they did not have any luck in the United States to find a match for me, because they always check the states first. And then we didn't have any luck, so we went elsewhere, and we found him in Germany. And so just so everybody knows, it's really interesting to me how it works. So I was O positive blood type, my donor's A positive, and my blood type changed to his.
Really?
Yes, and my last bone marrow biopsy showed that I was 100% male DNA, And I said, as long as I don't grow a beard and testicles, can I say that on TV? Anyway, I said, I'll be fine. I don't care if I'm a man. And so we joke about that at my house because I'm now a male and my blood type changed to my donor. And think of the miracle of this. I mean, I wouldn't be here today without my donor.
Okay, I'm a nurse and I can't even wrap my head around that. That is amazing. So if it wasn't for this person, out of the kindness of his heart, sending away for such a packet like you're talking about. Again, what was the name of that website?
It's bethematch.org.
And is it B, like in B or B-E? Be the match?
Yes.
Okay. So he got into something like that, and they were able to find a perfect donor match for you?
Yes.
Because
the only thing that was different was that he had A positive blood and I had O positive blood. They had 3 people in mind when we had matches, because they found 3 potential donors that were 10 out of 10 matches. But after they find those 3 potential matches, in my case, they look even more closely to see which one is even the most beneficial for my body. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes to it. I can't even begin to think about what the doctors have to collaborate on, because I know my doctor worked with a team of doctors, and they narrowed it down to 2 people, and then they narrowed it down to the 1. And they picked the best one for me.
Yeah.
So.
And you were at UNMC, University of Nebraska Medical Center?
The second time, yes.
And aren't they one of the leading hospitals in the world?
Research hospital, and they have an amazing team of doctors there and nurses. And I always tell my family and my husband, nurses need more credit because, and yes, thank you, because you guys do so much for patients. And without the care, because doctors can't do everything, without the care that we get from nurses, I don't know where I would be today, because I needed to be in the hospital for weeks upon weeks. And I mean, they helped me when I vomited. They put a feeding tube in me. I mean, I can list so many things that they had to do for me that I needed help with.
Yeah. Nurses are wonderful people, aren't we?
Yeah.
So your donor, in order for him to give his stem cell platelets to you, or his stem cells to you, what happens in Germany?
So we have somebody that actually, there's a job where people fly to wherever the blood is or the stem cells are gathered from. And so when I was in the hospital receiving 5 days of chemo to get my body ready for his stem cells, he's also given shots. And I believe they were either in the stomach or the arm, I'm not sure on that. And what it's doing is building up all of his stem cells so that he can give some away. And so what they do is they lay the patient, because you're a patient at that point, the donor on the table, and they have an IV in one arm, and the blood's drawn out, and then it has a system that takes out the stem cells. And then the other arm, the blood goes back in that they don't need. And so I literally had a unit of blood, and somebody flew it fresh. So just so you know, some people that get stem cell transplants, they need to freeze the stem cells and then they have to thaw them. Well, mine came fresh, so that they flew it into Nebraska Medicine, and they ended up coming to my room, and they actually ended up videoing the stem cell. I guess it was the IV. It looked like blood to me. It's just like you know how you get blood and platelets and whatnot. And so it just was amazing.
I just can't even believe that somebody that far away is the reason why you're sitting here today.
That's right. That's right.
So we all need to get into this registry.
Yes. Yes, anybody. And didn't you get blood and platelets at any point?
Yeah, I towards the end of my chemo, my hemoglobin and platelets and pretty much everything was very, very low. And so I had to go and get a unit of blood. The bad thing for me with getting a unit of blood is that I'm allergic to Benadryl.
Oh, I
And-
used Benadryl a lot.
Yeah, and Benadryl is what we give to people so that you don't have a reaction to the
To
blood products.
Yes.
And so it was kind of always left up to me whether or not I needed to go get a transfusion. And finally one day, my oncologist looked at me and goes, dude, really? Don't you think you need a little topping off?
And you always feel
Yeah.
better. I mean, I had enough of them to know that I felt so much better, like I could breathe better and everything.
Yeah.
But I needed them for survival. I don't know how low you had to get, because we had different kinds of cancer.
Right. I needed it for survival too. It was plain and simple. It was either get it and hope I didn't get a reaction to it. And even the reaction wasn't going to probably kill me. And so I ended up not feeling very well for about a day. I didn't feel like bad, but it was like I was having a reaction against this blood that was being given to me. Now, if I would have had the foresight years ago, I would have donated blood and had my own blood on, you can have your own
that's
blood
smart.
on standby.
Yes.
And that way I wouldn't get a reaction. And so, that might have been a good thought for me early on, but then again, taking blood out of a person with cancer, is there little cancer cells inside the blood? And so who knows what,
Well, that's like nowadays, when I'm in remission, I can't be a donor.
Yeah.
But I didn't think about donors until I got cancer. So it's great to put the plug in. Now, I want to tell you that the BeTheMatch.org is for stem cells or bone marrow transplants. But Red Cross, locally, if people are willing to, donate plasma, platelets, blood, any of that stuff, we're always in need of that, even locally,
We can't donate enough. Talking about donating, on my driver's license it says that I am an organ donor. Okay, I don't know if you know anything about this, but let's say that somebody needed stem cells. Would I even be a candidate to give somebody my stem cells since I already have cancer?
I would think the answer would be no, but I don't have a 100% answer, because I do know that since I've had leukemia, I can't donate blood or be a donor of any kind. I would think that if anybody, because like you said, if you would have saved some blood ahead of time, who knows if there was a little bit of cancer in there,
Yeah.
So.
Or on the other hand, it might have been the most perfectly beautiful, healthy cells I could have got. But
Exactly.
In the end, it all worked out quite well. I got just a little flu feeling for the day. And if I had to do it again, wouldn't think twice about it.
Exactly.
If it really does come down to your own life or whether or not.
Well, and I had some reactions to some of mostly the platelets. Sometimes the blood, I got a little bit feverish, but I've had platelets before where I literally, my whole body was shaking and trembling and I get a fever, and it was pretty scary.
Yeah.
And they had given me the Benadryl and the Tylenol, and the nurses made me as comfortable as possible, and I tried not to worry too much, but I really want to tell you I'm sorry to hear about your recent news. And I'll be praying for you and sending you positive energy.
And thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to do quite well.
You will.
But
It's all about attitude, right?
It is. It's
Yes.
There's this thing in psychology where they talk about if you think you're going to get better,
Oh, yeah.
you will. And just like we were talking about last week, where, what I need to do is quit my bad habits again, because like anybody who's recovering from cancer, I took full advantage of it. So what do? You start back up your business again, you build up your patient load again.
I know how that goes.
Then, you do this, that, and the other, and the next thing you know, I'm back to eating processed foods, I'm back to eating unhealthy, I'm back to not getting proper rest. And so for me, this second diagnosis is just an eye-opener saying, dude, you can't go back to your old lifestyle. You got to maintain a healthy lifestyle. You got to exercise. You've got to get proper rest. You got to have proper nutrition, proper hydration. So for me, it didn't really surprise me too much that my cancer came back when I sat and really thought about it and went, well, there's a reason why it came back, because I slipped back into my old habits. Now, if I maintained a healthy lifestyle, would I have still got cancer? There's a possibility, but there's a better possibility of me not getting cancer, or a good possibility of me surviving cancer. So if I go back to what we were talking about last week, eating well, sleeping well, getting good rest.
And not having such a stressful, chaotic life.
Yes.
I'm still in the mix of raising children and getting to activities, and I just know that this time I'm in remission still, and I want to keep that diagnosis. And hopefully they could say I'm cured eventually.
Yeah.
And I just want to not live such a stressful life.
I think not living a stressful life is the best way to have the energy to be able to heal.
Exactly.
Okay. Please join us next week. We'll be back and we're going to have a wonderful guest with us. Enjoy life.
Thank you.